I appreciate that I appreciate everyone who have joined us today for our session. I appreciate our speaker Carlos, who has joined in an odd hours uh, to give this session for our Indian Trailblazer community. So we have three group leaders in Salesforce Developer Group: Bhubaneswar, uh, Debashish Jena, who is Salesforce Technical Architect, Chinmay Rath, who is Salesforce Technical Lead, and myself, Rahul Gupta. I am a Salesforce developer. So we have Carlos, who's 5x MVP. He leads Architect Group in Tampa. He is a Salesforce certified instructor. He has given number of sessions in Dreamforce and Trailhead DX as well. Uh, the Twitter handle of Carlos here. Please give him a follow, and in case you have some queries, you can also reach out to him individually. So the agenda for today is we have a session and then we'll wrap it up with Q&A. So this is all. So over to you, Carlos. We can get started. I'll start the recording.
Okay, so let me.
Rahul, this is already recorded. You can continue.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
First of all, thank you all for having me here. Appreciate. As always, a pleasure to talk to the people in India, the biggest community on Ohana. And let me try to. Okay, now you see my ugly face here. Let me get out of here. Now let me start to share my screen. So please let me know when you can see the screen.
Sure.
Can you see the screen now?
Yep.
Okay, 1 second here. And you can start to record anytime that you feel like.
Yeah, we have already started on this.
Okay, so as I said, again, good morning or good afternoon to everybody. Our goal is to take like 30 minutes or so of your time to share with you and your team the benefits of linking Salesforce to a corporate DevOps strategy here. And I like these interactions. We can have a Q&A at the end, but if there's any moment that you feel like the urge to ask, please feel free. I don't mind, the interaction, as long as we can keep the flow of the presentation. Okay. A little bit by myself. I'm a Salesforce Advisor Evangelist. I'm the leader of the Salesforce Architect Group, Tampa, Florida. I am 8-time Salesforce certified instructor. I was an MVP from 2017 to 2021. A little bit about my information in there. You see my Trailblazer email, carlos.siqueira@trailblazercgl.com. My Twitter @AKA Carioca, and of course my LinkedIn. I use both platforms, of course, LinkedIn being the most professional one. I would appreciate getting invited to connect. I accept just about anybody that's professional in there. And let's succeed together. Why DevOps for Salesforce? Why innovation teams needs DevOps? And then we end with some questions there. So how to improve the number one? Okay, the first thing every business needs is a cloud platform. If you're watching this presentation, you have probably chosen Salesforce. Congratulations. You have chosen the market leader. You are absolutely certain that you will experience huge improvements in your time to market, in your company's growth from the Salesforce Cloud platform. At the same time, you can dramatically reduce your IT and operational costs because you no longer work with a massive set of infrastructures and servers. You are now working on the number one cloud platform. So that's the first thing you need to know. Okay, so what's the reality of DevOps? What's the good about DevOps here? Okay, 99% of people in a survey says that DevOps has positive impact on their organizations. In the middle, you see the impact or career. 78% had to learn a new skill. 48% of respondents say it helped them to get a raise. So you get the idea here. And this is a screenshot, is a slide here that you can either do a screenshot. This is being recorded. You can review later on, or if you does that really want it, I can make this deck available. But these are very important numbers here. If you don't do anything about DevOps, these are things that you need to know. If you're already doing, these are the metrics that you have to compare with and say, okay, I'm doing DevOps, but am I doing correctly or not? Then it comes, the bad side, or for better words, what exactly the hurdles that you have when you try to implement DevOps. That's what we're saying, there are barriers to the DevOps implementation. The number one in there probably is lack of skills and employees. Okay, then you have a legacy infrastructure, adjusting a corporate culture, silos between developers and operation teams, and and so on, so on, so on, so on. There's several issues in there. Then when you talk specific about Salesforce, okay, so what slows down your team when operating Salesforce at scale? How you build will determine the length of your go-live gap. This go-live gap is made up of 5 DevOps main obstacles that your team will face when building on a Salesforce at scale. Without addressing these challenges, your teams will never be able to deliver on a Salesforce at the full potential of the platform. So things that we see in there on a Salesforce. First one, lack of a value delivery process. There's no value-driven planning. There's no version control with Salesforce. There's no automated testing. There's a minimum security and compliance. And then there's a lack of delivery of analytics. How C-level people in your company going to see the performance, how often you do deployments, how often you fail deployments and stuff like that. So according to Harvard Business Review, only 10% of CIOs say they are very successful at the rapid software deployment. So this is the reality here. Okay, on the left side, you see the reality here. Teamwork is the heart of driving their performance. For your DevOps teams will build the future of your company. On the left here, you see from assets and developers right through the most experienced developers of your teams. We do that by unifying your delivery team, including everybody, your admins, developers, architects, your security team, and even the CIO and IT departments around a complete native DevOps platform. The benefits are clear. The two that I like to point out are to align your business goals with your technology execution and allow you to measure your digital transformation strategy running on the proper, running on Salesforce and using the right tools to manage your DevOps. Do you have any questions here so far?
No, nothing yet.
Okay, so pretty much what we see here, even before COVID, was like these silos, right? People working in different locations or maybe working in the office, but people doing whatever they felt like doing. There was no plan. So with a proper DevOps implementation or product, things start to get in line. Everybody start to work in tandem. There's a bigger collaboration in there. Okay, so large organizations contain dozens and dozens of teams multiplying in efficiency, of course. Okay, so how to increase your ROI, return of investment, by 50% by enabling DevOps. This is your whole cycle here, the transformations. And I'm going to talk about the 4 basic metrics used for DevOps across all the industries, regardless if it is Salesforce, Microsoft, Oracle. These metrics, they really don't change much. And this is a study by Gartner Group said that by next year, 70% of organizations will use value stream management to improve flow in the DevOps pipeline leading to faster delivery of a customer value. So let's see. Oops. Let's see here. What are the four measures here? Okay. First of them is the lead time for change. What it is this time from the when you start to code or point and click. When I say code here, is generic. Not all the applications or the solutions are exactly code. It can be code Apex. It can be point and click, or it can be a combination of both. So lead time for change is when you started to develop something all the way to when you started to put into production. So the shorter is better, is a faster feedback cycles and adjust to the market. So if you take 2 weeks to deliver something now, and you started to put it instead to have a 2 weeks, now you're doing in 1 week, that's better. That's the very first metric, lead time. So shorter is better. The next one is the deployment frequency. Okay, how often you release things to production? Okay, if you release things to production once a month is one thing. If you start to deliver once a week, that's improvement. Very mature companies like Google, they do deployments every 12 seconds. Or okay, so by the time that I finish my sentence here, Google has already done several deployments in there. Okay, that's a very aggressive, but that's the reality that we face today. The third metric is change failure rate. How long to recover from failures released to production? You can do this here in a short period, right? You can do this the frequency here, but most likely you might end up putting something, a bug, introducing something bad in production, no matter how much you test. Okay, so you have to aim to reduce this as much as you can. Okay, if you put things in production with no bugs, great. But most of the times you're gonna put something there that's gonna have a side effect. And the last is the mean time to recover. Okay, you did this implementation here on Friday. Comes Monday morning, you realize that you have a problem. How long does it take for you to fix that? The shorter is the better. So if your system is down or have a problem for 30 minutes, that means one thing. What if that takes like a couple hours? How many $1 million are you wasting? And how many customers you might be losing because of that failure in there. Okay, so this is pretty much the four metrics that you use with the DevOps. Again, this is not specific to Salesforce; is applied to any industry, any vendor. Okay, and of course you have the factors is the size of your delivery team, the number of users, numbers of production orgs, amount of customization, the use of a DevOps platform, and so forth. Now, you think you can build this on your DevOps tools by yourself? A lot of people think they can do it, and then you have this situation here. People who know Salesforce, people who know DevOps, but they don't know Salesforce, people who have time to write scripts, but the perfect thing is right here. This is the sweet spot that you have all the knowledge. So this is a competitor's battle card here. Why build and why have something, why would you build? Well, you can build a highly tailored solution that meets your specific needs. Well, not exactly. This is the people thinking they can do by themselves. When you do a product, when you use a product, you have a pre-built native Salesforce solutions can be quickly configured to support your specific DevOps process and other requirements. When you do this, you can leverage existing open source tools and systems. Well, pre-integrated with Salesforce and best breed of tools across DevOps phases. Offers flexibility to easily upgrade or switch tools. Open source will only provide a portion of what you need. Oh, it is cheaper to build on your own, specifically by using open source. That's not true. Open source, the tools are free, but it is required extensive development time, and people are very expensive. The people that's going to be doing this for you. So maintenance, in many times, is the initial investment cost here. So when you use a vendor product, tools offer great ROI with much lower time to market and TCO. So you get the idea here. Okay, this is a comparison. Time to build and deploy a solution. If you buy, it's probably 1 month. If you build, it's probably 9 months. You see the big difference here. Time to integrate a single tool. If you buy it, a product is 1 day. If you build, 6 weeks. If fixed cost for a 30 users solutions, okay, 0. Here you know $400 to $500,000, and these are the things that C-level decision makers they want to see. Okay, if you buy it, what's your annual return? Around 360%. If you build by yourself, your return is way less than this. Any questions or comments on this slide?
Carlos, we have some, but let's take that at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, you can go ahead.
Okay. So here are the 5 levels, okay, of maturity levels for DevOps. Most of people, when I ask, they are pretty much between 1 and 2 here. So all that they do is change sets, right? Some of them, if they do in DX, they might do some CLI commands, but that's not exactly a lot of automation. There's not a lot of sophistication in there. Then level 2 of maturity, you introduce version control. You start to use Git products like GitHub, GitLab, or Bitbucket, Azure DevOps. Number 3, when things start to get really interesting, you start to understand the power of having agile technologies or methodologies. You start to use user stories. You start to use sprints. Every 2 weeks, you have a sprint, okay? And this is a point where you start to use collaboration tools like a Jira. You could use Jira all the way for the beginning, but I doubt it that you're going to have a team with 1 admin, 1 developer, 1 BA, and 10 users that you're going to be using Jira. You can, but this is when you start to scale here. The next level, when you start to do continuous delivery here, okay? So you start to implement automation, not just automation for tests, but automations as well for deployment. And the last one here is the continuous innovation. It's pretty much when you say the term CI/CD, CI is continuous integration, and CD is continuous deployment. So that means continuous integration is that pretty much your team, whatever I do on my sandbox is readily available to my team on their sandbox as well. And the continuous deployment is pretty much, as I mentioned before, like a Google or other companies. You can do that all the way from a sandbox to production. Maybe you have 4 or 5 different sandboxes in between. So your pipeline, it goes all the way from the developer's sandbox all the way to production automatically without ever having a human being to press enter in there. Of course, you need to have a lot of processes in there, the proper testing, and that thing goes all the way to production and comes back. Why it comes back? Because once you have everything in production, you want to make sure that you synchronize everything else. Instead to do a refresh like you do with Salesforce, the out of the box refresh, you wipe out everything. With the modern technology, modern products out there, once you have your production updated, you can pretty much implement everything else backwards. Meaning, if you have a 15, 20, 30 sandbox where different people work, you can have a full sandbox, you can have a partial sandbox. There are functionality in there that anytime that something gets to production, only those changes get copied back to the previous sandbox, so everybody, everything else gets in sync in there. Okay, I mean, it's not a lot of companies that get here. The most of companies that I talk with, they're pretty much here 2 and 3. But once you start on the level 3 here, you start to see, to reap the benefits of all using a proper DevOps product or methodology. With that said, I'm pretty much open to questions and answers, and I try to entertain them to the best that I can.
So, Carlos, we have one question saying, how is DevOps going to help build career in Salesforce?
How DevOps is going to help what you improve your career?
Build the career in Salesforce.
Oh, okay, good question. I mean, there's a lot of stuff. Okay, there's a lot of stuff that people probably don't really realize. I mean, you see the analogy of the tip of the iceberg, right? You're in the water, you see something there, and that is just 1/3 of the size of the iceberg. The really big iceberg is underwater, you don't see it. DevOps is one of those things that is not a fashion, okay? It's not something, oh, it's cool to say, oh yeah, I do DevOps. Nowadays, everybody in Salesforce is calling themselves an architect, and they are not an architect. They are glorified admins, okay? So DevOps, how DevOps will improve your career? I mean, I'm not saying that you have to jump into DevOps, okay? You can be very happy being an admin. You can be very happy being a developer. You can be very happy being a BA. It depends on you. If you decide to say, hey, I choose to go to DevOps, money-wise, I think is a good money. When you look in a structure in there, and admins make one kind of money, developers, I think they make a little bit more. Architects, they make even more. Doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to the one that pays the more, because the more money that you make, more complexity, more skills. I mean, you don't get to call yourself an architect with 1 year in experience. There's years and years and years in there. So DevOps is not something new. I would even say that is a necessary evil. Why? Because you need to establish or order in there. So let me go back to a couple of slides here. You see, this is a reality of not having DevOps. Okay, so imagine that you all work in the same team. You have you and another five colleagues working the same office physically. You see, each other every day, but you don't have anything in there. So this can be me. Okay, can be I'm one of the developers. Then I have the bases as well. Then I have an admin here that's a who. Then I can have a meet thing here and no coordination. So what that happened? That's a disaster. Okay, that's a disaster. What if we don't have our own sandboxes? A lot of companies, I mean, sandbox are cheap. You have a 99 sandbox for free when you start with Salesforce. That's enough. I have seen people that they have a 200, but this is a US government company. So right there, if every admin or developer, he or she, they have their own sandbox, right there is improvement, right? Because if I'm doing something, if I'm writing a report on my sandbox, it is impossible for you to overwrite that because I'm doing mine. Okay, it might be the case of a human beings making a mistake, and you get a user story, you get a requirement that the BA give the same requirement to 2 different people, so they're both people working exactly on the same thing. Well, when you start to deploy that to the next pipeline, to your next sandbox on the pipeline, there's going to be a conflict here. So the role of DevOps, a release manager, or you implementing a DevOps methodology process in your company is gonna save a company specific money. And every time that you talk about saving money, upper management, have a smile. You save money, you save time, You increase adoption, because before, if you were taking a couple months to do, to deliver what the end user asked, and now you deploy that very often, and very often you meet or you exceed the expectations of your end users, the end user is going to be happy. you know Here in US would say happy wife, happy life. Well, that doesn't change here. Who's your wife on this situation? Is the end user. So every time that you please the end user, you score points for your team, you score points for your company, and of course for your customers outside, for the users outside of your company. So I believe the DevOps can really, if you decide to go to the career of being a DevOps specialist, that can really improve your resume. Okay, but overall, regardless if you work with the DevOps or not, DevOps is something that every company should have.
I loved your example. Thank you, Carlos. So the next question we have is how DevOps is useful for small company or small development team.
Okay, again, I can use this slide here forever. Okay, uh, when you work, of course, the bigger the team, the bigger the problems. Okay, you might say, well, my team, I'm a solo admin, okay, and I have only 10 users. I say, okay, fine. Well, we are humans, and we we have a tendency to forget things. Okay, so do it right. I like to say, measure twice and cut only once. Why? Because you don't want to waste the time. You don't want to waste time. So you have to prepare to scale. So if your company today, you are the only person, you are an admin, and you have like a 5 or 10 users, if you start properly, you know well, every time that you have a requirement, you create a user story, you have the proper documentation, you have the proper testing done. Even if you do all by yourself, guess what, there'll be a time that in the future, when the team grows, if you have done this properly, you might become the manager, and you might have people that, when the people join in there, they're gonna have a documentation, they're gonna have a proper uh, 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 a proper process in place. When you have a child, especially, let me give a good example. In India, I understand that you speak several languages in there, right? So are you going to wait until you are 18 to try to learn as many languages, or you're going to start early as possible? So early as possible, if you're a toddler, you start to go to the kindergarten, you're going to learn the local language or dialect in your region. And as soon as you have a chance, maybe you marry to somebody that speaks another dialect or language inside of India. So the earlier you get involved in that, you probably don't see right there, but you see the big picture. The early adoption always pays off. So no matter how small it is, you benefit that, because you know it's natural. Unless you decide, no, I don't want to grow, but it doesn't hurt. Efficiency doesn't see the size of the company. If you can establish efficiency in your process, it doesn't matter if you have 10 users or if you have 5,000 users. Make sense?
Yep, it does. So the next question we have, of all the tools available currently in market used for DevOps, any recommended tool while implementing that sales DevOps process for specifically Salesforce?
I know that this was coming.
Yeah, this is one of
Well,
the we say as a main questions in these kinds of session.
okay. So let me ask you this then. So to be fair, uh, the folks on the call, please tell me, what are the DevOps tools that you guys and girls and ladies heard about?
Okay, so the comments coming in is Bitbucket, Copado, Flossom, Azure DevOps, GearSet, and then DevOps Center. These are the comments
Okay,
coming in.
okay. First of all, Bitbucket is not a DevOps.
Correct.
Bitbucket is a Git.
Yeah.
It's a Git repository. So let me give you the names here. We have Copado,
Yeah.
you have a Flossom, We have a gear set. We have, probably you guys don't know, but it's an Indian company called Opsera. And then we have a DevOps center.
I see Auto Rabbit as well.
Yeah, I think auto rabbit also we can count.
Well, is Auto Robert still alive? I thought they died.
No, no, no. I do see their presence.
Okay. So yeah, so we have a Copado, Flossom, GearSet, Opsera, DevOps Center, Auto Rabbit, and you might have other smaller companies in there. They are not specific to Salesforce, but they claim to do DevOps. Well, I worked for Copado, okay, before for almost 2 years. Okay, most of the slides that you see here, I use with them. Never work with Flossom, never work with the other products. I have exposure to DevOps Center in my previous company. And what I would say is do your homework, okay? Do your homework because it wouldn't be fair for me to say that this product is better than the other. I can only say the products that I work, which was Copado, okay? And Copado is a very robust, no doubt it. The question is, do you really need all of those things? Copado, the full-blown Copado has way many functionality in there. And they bought a company and they call that Copado Essentials, okay? And the thing is, you gotta have the right tool for the right product, okay? You have to prepare to scale. So do your work, do your work, do your demos. There's a lot of stuff in there. Price can be an issue, comes from them. DevOps Center is the newest thing. I wouldn't say it's the weakest, but is the more is the simple one. Okay, probably offer less than 5% of the functionality that the other people, but it's still an improvement. Salesforce is targeting 70,000 users to adopt DevOps Center. Is a free. In the beginning, it starts with only one kind of Git, okay, to do the version control. I don't think allows a rollback. There's not a lot of automation in there, but it's for free, and free always sounds good, So you have to see it. I'll that's to be fair to the other vendors that I haven't worked with. You have to see. I mean, I know some people that I know, of course, a lot. I know a lot of people they use Copado.
Yeah.
I know people they use a gear set. I'm starting to see people using Flossom. Starting to see people using Opsera. At this moment, I really don't know anybody using Auto Rabbit, but I take your word. Okay, I know people that use Auto Rabbit before. So you have to compare exactly what's your budget and what exactly the functionality, what's your 5-year plan, how much you think you're gonna grow, and if your product is the product that you're choosing is going to to grow with you, it's gonna be scale. Are you multi or single cloud? If you say, hey, I only work with Salesforce, I don't have to do anything else, that's fine. But nowadays, even if you do heavily Salesforce, you might have an integration with something else outside of Salesforce. You might have an integration with SAP. You might have an integration with ServiceNow. Can this product do that? Okay, ideally, yeah, in the perfect world, you would have one product that would do the DevOps for all the platforms. That doesn't work, and I don't believe that would work. You gotta have, if you gotta have a good product to do your DevOps in Salesforce, another good product to do your DevOps for SAP and so forth. So do your homework, do trials, kick the tires, spin a sandbox, put your real data in there, and ask, always ask why, so that because people are trying to sell. And there's a good salespeople, there's a bad salespeople. So get your techie people in there to ask the tough questions.
That helps. Thank you. So the last question that we have is, what should be our DevOps adoption strategy if we are already running on production on?
Um, what would be? Can you rephrase
Yeah,
that?
what should be the DevOps strategy if we are already running on production org?
Okay. Oh, okay. So you okay. You have a production,
Yeah,
everything
the
is running,
production
but
live.
you don't have a
Yeah,
DevOps today, right?
correct.
Okay. Well, as I say, the answer would be very similar to the previous answer. You have to see exactly, uh, the measures in there. What you try, what you're trying to resolve by implementing DevOps. You say, well, I want a better deployment. Okay, I don't want to see my team on a Friday night going there and seeing and just watching the deployment fish, which is what happened with the change sets. I don't want to do that. Okay, so I want to have more frequent deployments. Okay, I want to reduce my lead time instead to take a few weeks or couple months to develop a report or a dashboard of a light webbing component or something like that. I want to shrink that. I want to have deployment more often instead to be once a month. I want to do every week or every 2 weeks. This is the kind of things that you have to see. You have to see exactly uh, the size of your org, how many users you have. 5,000 users, 400 users. Okay, who is your market? Do you do B2B? Do you do B2C? I mean, those things, they require a very rapid response, right? If you have a website where you sell things, you can be in an event like here in US, the Super Bowl, and you have a big promotion on a Sunday lunchtime. You cannot afford to wait for Monday. No, no, the moment is right there. If you see an opportunity to go in there, you need to develop something on the spot and put in production. So I would, you know, I will probably do the due diligence to check couple products, get your requirements, do a discovery call and see this is the problems that we're facing. These are the goals that we have. And most likely those vendors, they would answer those things and they probably will open your eyes for a couple other things. For instance, do you use any ALM tool? Do you use Jira? Okay, well, is Jira fine? What kind of Jira is on the cloud or is on the premises? Okay, oh, do you use a Git? Okay, is on the cloud or is on the premise? This is the kind of things that you have to see. What kind of integrations you're gonna have to do, and then you start to, when you choose one or two vendors in there that you made the list, then you start to do your trials in there. Then you start to mimic. You create different environments, and you have probably a full production. No, you have a full sandbox, and that's when you really start to see the performance and how fast you can go from one sandbox, individual sandbox from developers, how fast you can go in there through that full sandbox, and you test with the real data, and then you say, oh yes, this is the right path here. But you have to be careful in there.
Yep, that makes sense.
Any more questions?
No, this was the last question. So we are done with Q&A.
Okay, well, with that said, I want to say thank you everybody for joining. uh, as I said here before, you have information about my the ways to connect with me. Okay, and I would love to connect with the folks in there. Best of luck, and as I said, I'm here and I'm always learning. I hope you walk away today with with some clarifications. Maybe you have now something else to think about it. And yes, you can reach out to me on LinkedIn or Twitter. And that's about it. I know that's end of the day for you folks. I hope you have a great afternoon in there.
Thank you, Carlos. Thank you for joining us and giving us those adoption strategies and perspective, new perspective towards DevOps.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you, Carlos. Thank you, Rahul.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
We are closing the session. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Bye.